Okay, this is lesson R7 in college algebra, the basics of equation solving. This is going to be a really quick section because this is all stuff that you know how to do. Up to this point, what we've been doing is just simplifying expressions. Difference between an expression and an equation is an expression does not have an equal sign. So if I say, okay, go ahead and simplify that. That's an expression, and you're going to pull out an x there and get that. All right, now what we're going to do is I'm going to give you something like this with an equal sign, and then you're going to solve for x. So again, you're going to pull out the x, and your x has two options for an answer, x equals 0 or x equals 3. So you go further there because you have an equation. Now, a couple things I want to go over with you as far as equations. This number right there will tell you how many answers you're going to have. 2 answers. I got 2 answers there. Also, when you have an equation, if you have one variable, you only need one equation to solve. If you have 2 variables, you need 2 equations in order to solve for the x and the y or whatever. If you have 3 variables, yes, you need 3 equations in order to solve for the x, y, and z. So that's just a couple things to keep in mind as you're doing these. Other thing you've got a linear equation. Linear equation basically has one variable, and the exponent on the variable is a 1. So you just solve the equation like that. A quadratic equation has the form, it has an x with an exponent of 2. All right, that's going to be a quadratic equation. So x squared plus 3x plus 2 equals 0, x squared plus 3 equals 4. Those are quadratic equations because we have the x squared. And actually in Mathanese, it says it's written in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So if you can take an equation and write it in that form, it's a quadratic. So if I have x squared plus 3 equals 0, that's in this form because it's actually 1x squared plus 0x plus 3 equals 0. Okay, so there is no x here. So, there is no x here, so I say 0x, which means it's 0. My 3 is there, my x squared is there, and there's an assumed 1, so it's in that form. Alright, anyway, middle of page 48, there's your equation solving principles. You already know all those, what to do if things are multiplied, divided, added, or subtracted. Then they just give you example 1, example 2. Well, let's look at example 2, just to kind of remind you of what's going on. Okay, so we set that equal to 0. Okay, we make 2 parentheses. And again, you've done this over and over and over. So we have a plus 1 minus 4. And that's where we stopped. Well, now we need to find out what x is. X is whatever makes that 0 and whatever makes that 0. And there's my 2 answers that follow along with an exponent of 2. So I know I have 2 answers that I need to look for. Now, yeah, you get 2 answers, but sometimes those 2 answers don't work. So anyway, we'll get into that later. So factor out of 3. Okay. And look what you've got there. You really don't have much. Okay. So therefore, maybe you should try something different. So let's say we just take 3x squared. And a lot of this is trial and error. 6 over 3 is 2. Take the square root of both sides, and I get x equals plus or minus the square root of 2 for an answer. Okay. So that's it for Review 7. Shouldn't have any problem with this one.